Hi, I'm Ashling from Beaut.ie, and today I want to do a video just about color correction. So it's something a lot of people are really confused about. So I thought I would just go into a little bit more detail so you understand it and have a better idea of what it is that a lot of people are doing at the moment. Um, so in my last video I mentioned it, and since then there's been a huge amount of interest. So I suppose the one thing that you really need to understand is basic color theory. The way to do this is just by going online and downloading a color wheel. So it's just a basic color wheel, and you'll get it on Google. Or the other another way of doing it is Eason's do actually a physical color wheel. So this understanding this is just going to give you a much clearer idea of what it is that you're doing with makeup products to correct any kind of discoloration on the face. So I'm just going to start with kind of the basics. So for you to understand it, the ones that you would be kind of used to seeing would be kind of, I suppose, YSL have just introduced these three. So these are I suppose you're used to seeing the pinky based one, and that one is in a gold tube. I actually don't have it with me, but same idea, and it's this, but it's a pink toned one. They've just recently launched three other products. So this one is lilac, so it's kind of a purpley based one. This one is green, and this one is kind of more apricot salmon kind of color. I'm going to talk about these today, and there are so many other products on the market that do the same thing. They're just different branding and different kind of textures as well. So to kind of give you a clearer idea of what you would be using these for, I'm going to go back to my color wheel. So if you kind of get used to seeing your basic color wheel and you have kind of a clear idea of what it is that you need to correct, I suppose it's about looking at your face in the mirror, and just understanding the kind of color that you're looking at removing or reducing. So for example, if I have, I suppose, a really kind of blue tone circle underneath my eye, what I want to use, I want to go to my color wheel and I want to kind of go directly opposite it. So it's an orange based product that's going to neutralize that blue dark circle for me. So something like this apricot color is going to be amazing for reducing a blue underneath the eye. So even though we're talking about blues and oranges and anything opposite the color wheel, I know obviously a blue will neutralize an orange, but you have to understand that skin tone is involved as well. So obviously one skin tone, it's not going to be a really, really bright blue that you're correcting. It's kind of more of something a little bit more neutralized blue underneath the skin. So like a vein or like a bruise, that kind of a thing. So that's why that kind of more pastel version of the orange is going to work for you. Again, the same with red tones and blues. That's also going to correct it. So you've seen a lot of people online using, I suppose, the lipstick to counteract a blue undertone in the eye. The next color I want to kind of talk about is the green. So obviously, just so you're aware, anything opposite colors on the color wheel, that's what's going to neutralize your color. So that's how you use your color wheel. So the green is basically going to be for kind of really, really deep kind of reds and purples almost, so like magenta tones. If you have discoloration around the nose area or kind of big areas of redness, when you use a green, that's going to completely neutralize that for you. And then with purple, the purple one is going to be brilliant for kind of brightening up a sallow complexion. So you'd often find, and it's rare with kind of anybody with a paler skin tone, that we would really need the purple, but it's kind of people with more of a sallow tone, a warm tone in their skin would often get a really kind of a deep dark circle, and it's more on the sallow side as opposed to a blue tone. Whereas people who are pale or kind of cool tone skins, they'd see more of a deep kind of a blue around the eye. So that's when you would use your pinky tones or kind of orangey tones. Again, it's not necessarily a bright red unless you have a bright blue undertone. So if you do have a very, very blue tone under your eye, brilliant to use a red. If not, you want to go for something more of a pastel kind of toned back pink. That's going to neutralize your blue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what for my skin tone what works. So I'm actually going to use this new product by Benefit, and it is called Shy Beam. So it's a nude pink, but it's matte, which I really like. It's not actually, I've never used it before, so we can use it together and I can talk you through it. But this is a light pink, so it's kind of a pastel pink. So you'll see with my kind of eye tone, there is a slight blueness. I'm a neutral skin, so there is a hint of green and blue in there. So this kind of tone is going to work. That salmony tone is going to work really well for me. I suppose it's going to cancel out blues, it's going to cancel out greens and purples. It can be used under the eye, or it can be used to highlight kind of your cheekbones or bring anything out, which is brilliant. This is kind of the one that I would use most for my skin tone. People who would have a little bit more depth or sallowness would kind of go for more of a yellow, which is going to be brilliant for them, and it'll neutralize kind of the purpley tones or bluer tones in their skin. So I'm just taking a tiny bit of this product, this Benefit product, out and applying it to the back of my hand. So that is it there. So it's Dandelion, it's new. I haven't tried it before, again, as I mentioned. So I'm going to take a fluffy brush and just apply that under my eyes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of apply it in a downwards V, and then back up towards kind of the back of my ear, and that will act as a highlighter. And I'm just making sure to get kind of right into the inner corner of my eye, because a lot of the time that's where the shadow comes from. So this will really brighten up kind of my skin tone. You'll see people kind of like, Kim Kardashian would have used that banana powder under her skin, so her eyes, sorry. So you would often have seen that worked really well, but you have to take notice that she's sallow, so she's kind of a little bit darker skin tone than I would have. For me, a pink tone is going to look a lot better, so anything kind of pink based is going to be better for kind of my skin type. It's rare that you would really need to kind of go down the route of using a kind of a lilac, as I mentioned. So this one, it's quite strong, so it's brilliant for people who are very, very sallow. So I would almost say, if they look almost like the dark circles look almost black or kind of really dark brown, that's when you would use a purple to kind of brighten up the complexion underneath the eye. With greens, if you have kind of a really nice, quite a redness around the eye, it's brilliant for that. But again, it's kind of one of those things that green is quite a strong tone again, so it would be better for people who would have kind of, I suppose, redness, like a spot or kind of a bit of rosacea, that kind of a thing. The green will really neutralize it around the eye, unless it's really, really strong, unless it's really quite a dark red. You want to be using kind of more yellow based products if that kind of relies on your skin tone. So it is confusing, and it is one of those things that you have to kind of keep reverting back to your color wheel to understand. But as I said, it's one of those things that you'll get used to. So keep your eye on your color wheel and just make sure it's something that you're checking every time, because everyone's color skin type is different, and everyone will have different kind of skin issues or discolorations on their skin. So it's just getting to know what yours are and what color will then counteract that. So I'm now just putting a tiny bit of this product down the center of my nose. Because again, it is my kind of a few shades lighter than my own natural color, it's going to really work. Whereas if I was using a green version of this, it's not going to do anything for me, if that makes sense. So I'm just popping a tiny bit of that down the center of my nose. And then on the Cupid's bow again, so you can see how that kind of brightens everything up. So this is actually a really cool product. It's kind of, it reminds me of the YSL, but it's not as pink. So it's actually I'm liking this. And I'm also going to put a tiny bit just on my chin. So you can see how it's kind of bringing my face forward a little bit, and it's just bringing anything that I want highlighted forward. You can see as well how it just has kind of neutralized the circles under my eyes, which is really nice. So if I'd used a different tone there, it wouldn't have worked. So that's kind of the fundamental explanation of color correction. It really is just about figuring out what color you're trying to neutralize. The other tip that I would have as well is if you're using a green or a purple and you are trying to neutralize things, you'll see a lot of things on the internet where people are coloring in their faces and it's kind of looking almost clown-like. It's not necessarily, unless you're kind of very confident with color correction, it's not something that everybody needs to be doing. So don't kind of think that, oh, everyone's doing this, it's something I have to do. It's not at all. Color correction, a lot of the times our foundations will have a full enough coverage in it anyway to conceal what you need to conceal. So it's not something we would use a huge amount of anyway, especially as makeup artists. If you do have a specific kind of like, I suppose, pigmentation or hyperpigmentation or kind of birthmarks or kind of big areas of redness or kind of very dull complexion, that kind of a thing, yes, you can use it. But when you do, the best way to kind of do it is if you have, say for example, I'm covering a spot. I don't really have a huge amount of redness on my face at the moment. But what I would always do is take a little bit of this product and again put it on my hand. And when you are trying to get rid of a color, I'd always use a fluffy brush and really just the tiniest amount of this product. And instead of putting it on and seeing the color green, what you should be doing is using it on a fluffy brush and literally just kind of dusting it over the top like this and buffing out the color so that the redness just neutralizes back to skin. So you're using the green to correct the redness. So it shouldn't look green. It should just literally buff away any of kind of the redness, and it should then turn into a completely neutral color, which you can then put your foundation or your concealer over the top. So it shouldn't, it's less is always more with a color corrector, if that makes sense. So even that will just kind of neutralize everything and should brighten everything up. And the same under the eye area, it shouldn't just look like a completely different color, unless you're covering a bruise or something like that, where it's unless the dark circle is predominantly very, very, very dark or very blue or whatnot. Generally, once we have put concealer or foundation over the top, it'll just kind of neutralize everything. So I hope this video explains color correction a little bit clearer. If not, I can go into a little bit more detail if you want to hear more, or if you have any other video requests that you would like me to answer, please comment in the box below and I'd be delighted to do so.